what's happened to people, eh? When you got a complete lack of empathy, caring about others. And it's the same people that tout God and the Ten Commandments. And then what they do? They do the total opposite. They don't care about others. In fact, they're happy to see them drown in the Channel. Well, that's what Ben Habib of the Reform Party, was what he said. Although he's left now because he got pushed out. And then you got Andrew Jenkins, who was just made a councillor. Andrew Jenkins with the finger. Yeah, she gave the bird to the press and everybody watched that she did. Professional, wouldn't you say? Well, she happened to say this just yesterday, that she did.
What world will the good people of Greater Lincolnshire want 10 refugee camps in their backyards?
No, I'm not talking. I'm talking about as they come across, as they have it in France.
So down in Dover?
Well, yeah, I do that as a temporary situation. Why would the good
people of Dover want tents and refugee camps on their doorsteps?
Also, they leave a safe country to come to another safe country.
I totally agree with you on that.
With France.
I totally agree with you on that. But in what world will the people of Dover advocate refugee-style camps like we see in the third world, with tents erected in their backyards? They just won't want that.
Well, it's got to be a contained area. It's got to be a contained area to then we've got to send them back to France. We've got to start sending. My whole point is we've got to send them back to France, Camilla. They shouldn't be coming over the first place.
Is your tent idea your idea, or has it been endorsed by the party? Because Reform sort of distanced itself from this.
Yeah, no, it's my idea.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Camilla, I've always been a politician who speaks my mind and puts my views forward. That's what.
That was not her idea, actually. It was Lee Anderson's idea. 30p Lee. The man who, he used to be part of, he used to be in the Labour Party. Then he decided he was going to be, he got pushed out, actually, in the Conservatives. And now he's jumped ship again to Reform Party. He started on the left and now he's in the hard right. It's just nuts. Absolutely nuts. This man is just unbelievable. And he also has a show on GB News, or at least he did. Now, he said, okay, I've got the video somewhere, if I can find it. He said that while it's raining in his, in his cagoule, he was standing there in the rain, he was, and he says, put them in the tents, and if make them work in the fields. When they finish the day, a long day, and have a cold shower, then put them back in the tents again, and when they wake up again, and then they work in the fields again, and, rinse and repeat. And that's how he wants to treat people. He wants to treat people like the Uyghur Muslims. They're being treated by China. That's what he wants. And then you got Ben Habib, like I said, he got pushed out by Nigel Farage, because Nigel Farage decided he wanted to be the leader of the party again. Well, Ben Habib want them to drown. These people who seem to think you can either just drown them or actually just shove them in a boat and put them back on the beaches of France are just stupid to unbelievable levels. It's just idiotic. Now, if you want to have any kind of trade with these countries, if you don't want to be ostracised by the people of those countries, if you want the people of those countries to keep buying your products so you can trade, whether they be, for services in the form of insurances or actual stuff, well then, quite frankly, you need to treat them with respect. You don't go dumping migrants on their own beaches. No. Once they've made their way halfway across that flipping channel, they're yours. They're yours to deal with. That's it. There ain't no argument there. And if you don't like it, it's tough. You're going to have to deal with it. If you don't make it appealing, or maybe that's what they're being told is appealing, because quite frankly, looking at the state of the United Kingdom at the moment, it's not particularly appealing to me. No, I live here in France, and I'd rather be here, I'll tell you. Lovely place, especially in the country. But these people who vote for parties like Reform Party, they really are easily hoodwinked. They're clearly simple of mind. They don't, read any history. Recent history. Brexit, for instance, where Nigel Farage has literally destroyed the United Kingdom with his Brexit. Yet again, that's fed by an emotion, a feeling, a sentiment. Brexit. Sovereignty. Got less sovereignty now than we had before Brexit. Oh, you can make all your laws and what have you. Yeah, make your own laws, okay. But you can't make laws anymore that affect other countries. You can't be a part of those laws like you were once before. You've got less sovereignty. You're wielding less power, not more. You had a say before. 27 other member states. And then you got the expanded EEC, the economic area and what have you. You had a say. You had a seat at the table. And now, the European Union member states, they look upon the EU, well, you're outside the club now. That's what Nigel Farage has done. He's put you outside the club. Not just that. He's brought you the Farage garages. Sevington, for instance. Inland border customs checks. Making everything of downside more expensive. He's also brought you rotten strawberries that are getting stuck at the border, and by the time they got through the flipping customs, they're no good. Just last week, actually 2 weeks ago, 300 tons of strawberries went to waste. And then you got the fishermen who have to physically cut up their boats. Yeah, right, they sent in Elon Musk with his chainsaw. They did, they cut up the fucking boats so they could get their compensation. That's what Nigel Farage brought you. A much diminished fishing industry. Nobody is going to invest in building new boats. No bank is going to lend the money to build a boat because the industry is too precarious. More precarious now than it was before. There were protections. There were loans, interest-free loans. There was money available for the fishing industry. And there was a market. There was a market to sell to. And now that is being squished somewhat. Glass eels companies, because the law has changed. The geezer who was there, he was a poster boy for Nigel Farage with his glass eels, telling everybody that it will be better for the glass eels industry, or sell more. What happened? They end up selling them to Japan and Asia in general. And now the laws have changed. So all of a sudden, he can't export them at all. He's gone bankrupt, he's gone. Nigel Farage did that. And then you got wholesalers, fish merchants such as Ian Perks, who was also a poster boy for Nigel Farage. There he was, telling them, don't be so bloody stupid. Of course we'll be able to trade when we're outside here. They will want our fish, they will. And no, I say, we don't want them anymore because they've been sitting in port too long. And it's currently costing around £600 per load just to get them over. And if they get stopped because you got the blue pen, they're sitting on the port waiting to get signed off. Well, they're rotten. They're no good. Your customer no longer wants them because the shelf life is much shorter than it once was. Nigel Farage did that. He's destroyed everything. Everything. Yet, the fucking idiots who voted for the Reform Party last week, they just got a tiny, tiny fucking memory. Or were they not listening? Do they still believe that Brexit is great? Make Britain great again, or something crap like that, I don't know. because it hasn't, has it? Our trade is much diminished, our GDP is much diminished, our exports are much diminished. Costing billions. It's costing billions just to actually facilitate the paperwork. Monies that they can't get back. It's just a cost. Because of all the checks, the veterinarian checks and what have you. We've had pumpkins rotting in the fields. We've had courgettes rotting in the fields. We've had carrots rotting in the fields. We've had strawberries rotting in the fields. And parsnips rotting in the fields. Because of Brexit. And Nigel Farage brought you that. And yet you still vote for him. That is the definition of a feckin' idiot. So forgive me if I call you an idiot if you have voted for Nigel Farage again. Stupid is as stupid does. A very wise man once said that, yeah. Well, you need to look at the detail. When people promise you stuff, when they have no power to deliver it, you have to ask yourself a question. How are they going to deliver it? Like the migrants. How are they going to stop them from coming? Labour, for instance, has deported more people than the Conservatives ever did. And yet, do they get the little flag waved? No, because the right-wing media always push the right-wing narrative. It suits them, it sells papers, you see. It's bums on seats again. Just like the fact that there's a trade deal that's just been negotiated and signed with 1.4 billion people. India. 1.4 billion people. It is a developing country in many ways. The fact is, the divide between the rich and the poor and the middle classes is shrinking. There's more and more rich people. People who buy, who spend money in India. Because of the manufacturing sector, more people got jobs as well. There's less poverty. Less little kids out there begging with their bound feet, you know, just like all twisted and stuff. So you feel sorry for them. Massive market. Is he getting credit? No. Getting criticism. But that is the world that we live in today. The right-wing media has too much sway, too much push, too much power. And that needs curbing. Desperately. The Murdochs of this world, who don't live in the United Kingdom, who aren't British citizens, should not be allowed to own media companies in the United Kingdom. Now, many countries already do that, such as France, for instance. And the United Kingdom should follow suit. If there is a media company in the UK, force them to sell if it's owned by people like Murdoch. News Corp. They have got too much power. They influence politics for foreign gains. Their gains, you see. To me, it's just, well, it makes perfect sense. But they say there's too much money, too much foreign influence, whether it be Vladimir Putin handing wads of cash to Aaron Banks and over to Nigel Farage, allegedly. Well then, quite frankly, while that is going on, we're never going to pull ourselves out of this quagmire. Politics and the media, mainstream media, they need to be on the same playing field. This, about making the country better. If something good has happened, say, well done, so to speak. Or talk about it. That it makes sense. Oh, this is a good idea. Look at the positives. But no, they'll just knock everything down because it's Labour, because it's the left. Yes, they've made mistakes, you could say. Well, Do you think Reform Party is going to be able to solve this, crisis that we're in? No, they're not going to be able to because they are incompetent. The people in the Reform Party are idiots. Plain and simple. Populists. Plain and simple. And while they exist, you're never going to pull yourself out of this quagmire. While they are being allowed to populate their hate just because of freedom of speech, you see, they're populating via lies, you see, and, they shouldn't be tolerated in politics. Shouldn't be tolerated in the media. The whole point of the media in the past was literally just to tell the truth, say what's actually happened. These days is about pointing fingers, calling names and all that sort of tosh. Like the fact that they're idiots. Bit of hypocrite there, aren't I? Anyway, you tell me what you think, please. Leave it in the comments down below. But, if you think the grass is greener on the other side, think again. Because it is not. In fact, you are literally going into, Mordor! Into the fiery pits of Mordor, that you are. Anyway, toodaloo. Don't forget, people, the like button.